It was a moment that changed the course of football forever.
Y es más, me entero a la tarde porque me manda a llamar a la tarde, me dice, ¿qué está haciendo? No, estoy en mi casa. No sé. Bueno, venía a la ciudad deportiva y quiero hablar con vos. Y ahí me muestra un par de videos y me dice lo que...
When we look back to the decision to move Messi to false nine, we imagine a stroke of genius. Guardiola the Maverick being the only man to look at this front three and think, could be improved. But the masterstroke came from fear. The fear of his greatest rival.
Y tenemos que ser nosotros, si no es muy difícil ganar ahí. Ya conozco bien ese estadio, ya fui muchas veces y es un estadio diferente a todo y si queremos ganar tenemos que ser muy superiores a ellos.
It was a strange ploy, and even Barcelona players raised their eyebrows. Guardiola had two of the best strikers the game has seen at his disposal. Surely it had to be one of them up top and not the scrawny right winger. But as the fierce rivals took to the pitch, it was too late for second thoughts. The great experiment was underway. Pep, already a wily operator, did not give away his plan immediately. He had to lure in his prey. A red herring. The first few minutes saw Barcelona line up as expected, with Samuel Eto'o at centre forward. The Madrid backline liked this. It was normal, and Cannavaro and Metzelder could keep their eyes on their man. The opening was frantic, and both sides went end-to-end, with no one claiming control. But even on the right wing, Messi was already a danger, picking up the ball and terrorizing the left-back Heinze. Messi ran at his countryman again and again, and the left-back began to compensate, trying to stick to Messi like glue. Little did he know he was stepping into the spider's web. But Real Madrid were no sitting ducks themselves, and they had an attack that was thirsty for goals. Barcelona's attacking impetus meant that the front three tended to stay high, ready to counter-attack, and that left their fullbacks with a lot of defensive responsibility. Maybe too much. Real had doubled up on left-backs to help protect against Messi, so the opposite flank was where they flourished, and they had a right winger of their own that was ready to take on the world. Los Blancos consistently looked to find Robben through quick passes across the pitch, to isolate him against the left-back. Eric Abidal was a lamb to the slaughter. Every time Robben received the ball, he went past the Frenchman at will, consistently looking like the main goal threat. But this wasn't Abidal's fault. Robben was in a different mood. And even when Barcelona offered more and more support to Abidal, Robben was unfazed, going past 2 or 3 men on a whim. Real Madrid were on the prowl. Barcelona had to react. On the 5-minute mark, the Blaugrana played their first gambit. Suddenly, Messi moved central, and Eto'o was just outside of him on the right. No reaction from Madrid. After all, this happens in open play, with players temporarily leaving their positions only to return later when the game state has settled. But Messi didn't return. When he received the ball centrally, Heinze, still spooked from the early phase of play, sprung from defense, trying to suffocate Messi before he could strike, but he left a gaping hole, one that Eto'o and Dani Alves immediately attacked. Confusion in the Madrid backline. Barcelona growing in confidence, until Madrid launched an attack, finding Robben against Abidal again. And this time, Abidal forced Robben backwards. But Henry was still high, waiting for the transition, allowing Ramos to spring forward from right back. Abidal was still on the back foot, and a swivel of the hips gave Ramos the space he needed to swing in across. A young Higuaín met the ball, 1-0. And Messi's words echoed. Barcelona needed to respond, and we began to see why Pep had come up with the false nine system.
Vamos a jugar con falso 9 porque no quiero que los centrales tengan la referencia y que quiero ser uno más en la mitad de cancha para tener la pelota, porque para ir a Madrid a ganar hay que tener la pelota, hay que ser protagonista.
All pretense of the traditional front three had to be dropped. The false nine was fully implemented in response, and immediately the game changed. Madrid had been defending valiantly, using a piston press with their flat 4-4-2 shifting to a 4-2-3-1 to match Barcelona's 3-man midfield. But Messi was the fourth man, the wild card. Barcelona never played like this, and the confusion in the Madrid defense was evident. Taking up this position bamboozled Madrid. It was sort of in the midfield, so should Gago pick him up? But isn't Messi Heinze's man? So should the left back push in? But if Eto'o's on the right side, does that make Messi the centre forward? So should a centre back push higher? This was the perfect example of this, as Messi picked up the ball facing the midfield and drawing Diarra. But Heinze panicked, scarred from the past, and also committed to closing him down. And Cannavaro looked to take matters into his own hands, meaning Messi drew 3 men effortlessly, with 2 of them out of position.
Y ellos estaban un poco perdidos porque era algo nuevo también para todo el mundo, lo que nosotros hacíamos después de haber jugado un montón de tiempo de una misma manera.
But there was something else that made the system lethal. Barca had two of the best centre forwards on the planet, playing wider, and both were always hungry for goals, but most importantly, both of them were rapid. Real Madrid were playing with a high line, so with every step forward, they were tiptoeing their way into the trap. Barcelona were willing to be direct, so when Messi came deep, if the centre-back tried to step forward, the Blaugrana launched the ball over the top again and again.
Te quiero que venga a mitad de cancha, que te junte con Busi, con Xavi, con Andrés y tener la pelota ahí. Y después que si salen los centrales tenemos a Samuel y a Titi, que son los que van a picar al espacio.
As if he had seen the future, Pep's master plan was coming together. Abidal picked up the ball under no pressure, and there was no danger to the Madrid defense. Ramos was on Henry, and Cannavaro on Messi. Henry picked up the ball, luring Ramos high, and Cannavaro, a man of so much experience, already smelt the danger. He saw the gap, but he couldn't leave the magician free, so he charged Messi, a fatal error. The gap grew, and Henry had turned it into a foot race against Ramos. A chip pass from Messi, a cool finish from Henry. It was only 1-1, but the looks on Madrid faces said it all. They knew they were in for a long day. Moments later, Puyol added a second from a set piece, and Barcelona were ahead in the home of their biggest rivals. But Messi at false nine gave them options in transition as well. He was an easy reference for them to hit, as Gago pushed higher on the attack, and whenever Messi did receive, he had the pace of the wide men to hit. This was vital. The lasting image of Pep's Barcelona is a pressing machine, but the machine wasn't quite perfect in this match. The seeds of what they would become were there, because when the opportunity did present itself, they would still leap forwards, with alarming ferocity.
Just before we get there though, with the season over, if you've always wanted to learn tactical analysis at a deep level, now is the perfect time, as Tactical Mastery is now live. When I began my tactical analysis journey over a decade ago, there weren't many resources online that could reliably teach you everything you need to know for high-level tactical analysis. And when I looked online a year ago, not much had changed. So I decided to fix that and created Tactical Mastery, which is your one-stop to master tactical analysis. It's the program that I wish I'd had when I was beginning. And essentially, it allows you to shortcut what took me 10 years of learning into just a fraction of the time. And because you love analysis, I've made sure the program is highly detailed, with over 9 hours of pure analysis education, while still being presented in the same simple FMS style that you know from the channel. And here's the beauty. Joining Tactical Mastery also gives you access to a community of other people like yourself from around the globe, so you're never learning in isolation. And one of the key features is our group analysis sessions, where we pick a match and analyze it as a group, allowing you to get feedback on your analysis quickly, meaning that you will learn faster than you thought possible. Tactical Mastery is not a subscription trap that's designed to keep you locked in forever. It's a once-off, meaning that you're one step away from transforming your tactical understanding through the link in the description below.
Xavi and Iniesta knew they had the man mountain, Yaya Toure, behind them. The Madrid double pivot was staggering, in possession, increasing the distance between Diarra and Gago, isolating themselves. Barcelona swarmed. On the 35th minute, Messi pressed Metzelder, and Diarra looked to receive, thinking he had much more time than he actually did. Xavi and Iniesta had the pivots in their sight. As soon as Diarra received, Xavi put in the tackle, setting up the false nine perfectly. 3-1 Barcelona. But the impact of Eto'o was also crucial. He could mirror what Henry did on the far side, but there was more dynamism to his role. The Cameroonian played between the fullback and the centre-back, and this not only attracted Heinze while protecting Messi, but it also affected his fullback. Down the left, Henry did all the running in behind, as Abidal was behind him and not constantly overlapping, so they needed Henry for the width. Down the right, however, there was the Alves factor. The Brazilian was fearsome in attack, so Eto'o didn't have to provide the width, and in fact, he was in this inside position most of the game, and that opened up opportunities. Now Heinze would be drawn to Eto'o, and Messi would be in space, and he would draw in Metzelder, and this created space down the Madrid left, a chasm which Alves would thrive in. But Eto'o's role was far beyond that, and alongside Messi, he was the most positionally fluid man, and though Messi was the false nine, Eto'o would come central, so the attacking shape was a 2-3-1. But an underrated aspect of his game was his continual involvement on the ball, as he did a lot more than just run in behind. He dropped deep at times, making them look like a double false nine, as he would also receive to give Messi space to run in behind. It was all too much for the Real defense, and they just couldn't come to grips with the movement, and later in the match, Barcelona copy-pasted their ploy for Henry to finish off once again. Real Madrid were completely lost. Messi was just getting started from false nine, now receiving again and again between the lines, with Xavi and Iniesta constantly turning their men. Madrid centre-backs now desperately tried to assist the midfield, and Messi did the impossible, making even the likes of Cannavaro look average. challenge, with the Italian looking clumsy whenever he was drawn out of the defense. There was a final aspect to the tactics that really tied the system together. Messi was the false nine, but he wasn't the only one. We've already discussed Eto'o, but whenever Messi dropped deep, Xavi and Iniesta were willing to rotate into the false nine position and make runs beyond him. Again, all of this was intended to daze and confuse, as if the centre-backs would follow Messi deep, he would now allow a free runner to get on the end of the longer ball. But if they did track that man, now Messi had even more room to pounce. Messi's final goal of the match was the perfect concoction of this new system. Eto'o, high and off to the right, drew Metzelder, and he made the run into the channel, dragging the centre-back wide, and Xavi pushed up in advance of Messi. Xavi was now the highest man, the perfect wall for Messi to bounce the ball off of. Metzelder was still hopelessly out of position, forcing Heinze to cover. A turn, and suddenly Messi, from the deep position, had identified the space, and with ice in his vein, he finished. The 5th of May 2009 was a seismic day in modern footballing history. Another historic period that Messi was involved in was MSN. Click on screen now to see why MSN succeeded, whereas Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe failed.
And don't forget to check out Tactical Mastery through the top link in the description if you want to master tactical analysis.